This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of December 20th, 2021. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Carey,
Here.
alternate member Flanagan,
Here.
member Hutchins,
Here.
member Kosinski,
Here.
Chair Marsh.
Here. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'll ask if there's any public comment. Anyone? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I just make one note
Your spot.
on the first page,
Your name.
under the approval of minutes of the September 20 meeting. I became member Hutchins instead of Hutchins, so if they could, thank you.
And I do see an edit on page 5, third paragraph down, second line from the bottom. It reads neighborhood so that it doesn't. And I think if you delete the word they, so that it doesn't.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second? Yeah, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I have to remind everyone that this is a quasi-judicial meeting. And if there's any ex parte discussion between the commissioners and public or applicants, please.
No.
No.
None.
No. Okay. We hear from staff on item number 1, number 2.
Before we proceed, can I swear everybody in is going to be talking on the item?
Pardon?
Before we proceed, I want to swear
Oh,
everybody.
yeah, sorry. Beg your pardon. Yeah, anybody that wishes to speak, please stand and
Please
raise it.
stand. This is in regard to 76 Beachway, so if you're here to speak in regard to that, please stand
The applicants
and raise
as
your
well.
right hand. Do you swear or affirm to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
When you come forward, please state your name and address clearly for the record and whether or not you have been sworn in, and please speak directly into the microphone.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to hear item 2, the plan review for development plan review for 76 Beachway Drive. We have staff.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners, Corey O'Gorman, Town Planner. This is development plan review for 76 Beachway Drive. The scope of work includes construction of a new 2-story single-family home. With 4 bedrooms, including a
Excuse me,
library.
Corey. Could you use the microphone? These barriers are.
Good morning.
A little bit. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Corey O'Gorman, Town Planner. Thank you. This is development plan review for 76 Beachway Drive. Scope of work includes construction of a new 2-story single-family home with 4 bedrooms, including a library and lounge, 4 1/2 baths, 2-car garage, and swimming pool. The recommendation is for approval of conditions that are attached to the agenda, and I'd be happy to answer any questions I can.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Staff,
It's-
the applicant.
Okay. The applicant here.
I'm James Robson, representing Randall Soft.
Okay.
So you go up to the mic and you look the project from your perspective.
This working? Okay. Yeah, so my name is James Robson with Randall Stoft Architects. I'm project manager on this project and developed a project with Randall Stoft. We both feel that everybody feels that this project is in line with the Ocean Ridge development outline that we have. It's a beautiful project set on the corner of Beachway and Osprey, which is a predominant corner. We did a Dutch style house architecture, emphasizing the corner with kind of like a tower where we have the library and the bedroom above.
Is that your presentation?
Sorry, this is my first time. I thought Randy was going to be here. Yeah, so yeah, and we just feel like with that corner, we put the tower on the corner, which emphasizes that corner, makes it a little bit stronger. And then it also has library, lounge upstairs with bedrooms and master bedroom on the ground floor. We oriented the front of the house on Osprey rather than Beachway, which kind of gives it a little bit more response to the house next door and makes it a little bit more for the neighborhood feel. We noticed that, or I noticed anyways, whenever driving down Beachway, aside from the entry house, the house along Beachway and A1A, that the houses kind of turned their back a little bit on to Beachway with bushes and such. So we felt that the opening, the front of the house should be on Osprey rather than Beachway.
Okay, staff. Do we have staff? Well, we've had staff, so I'll ask any of the commission if they have any questions for the applicant or any concern.
Sorry.
Tara's arrived. Do we need to go back to staff report?
If you guys would just, Tara, do you have anything to add? And this is 76 Beachway.
Okay.
We will need to swear Tara and she can hear right. Tara, I didn't just swear you in before you say no. Do you swear from the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question as it relates to the conditions from staff.
Mhm.
And this is, I think it's towards the last 64-46. The part that has not been struck out talks about the door being removed from the lounge, but how easy it is to replace it. And this actually comes up on both of these applications today. How do we enforce this and how do we monitor? This is maybe just a general question. I don't know how we do this in the future.
That's an excellent question. I think we're all pondering the same thing. I don't think we have any right to go in after the fact from a review or inspection standpoint. I think the issue here is the amount of parking, the number of bedrooms. And so it's a bit of a, awkward situation to have to deal with. I don't know if Christie has any comment one way or the other on this.
No, it's just as you said. I mean, it's an enforcement issue down the road. Obviously, the building official and code compliance, and community standards, which is now going to be called. It would be a matter of they have to monitor.
Yeah.
I have one comment.
Sure.
Is it looking at these two sets of plans, and they are different in that this one, the room that is the office lounge, is on the first floor, located next to the kitchen, with no visible easy access to a restroom with shower facilities. And I'm relatively comfortable that this won't be used as a bedroom. But that's the kind of, our best assurance is, does the design show an intent? And our the concern of this commission is parking. Not how many bedrooms are put in there, but if there's going to be adequate parking, especially a home that might be used for, family use during the holidays, and it loads up with a lot of vehicles. And we've seen some of that in the past. This house really seems to be designed for single family use.
Agreed, but also Commissioner Carey, there is a lounge on the second floor.
All right.
That could, in fact,
Yeah.
various things
That's
could be manipulated.
The greater
there.
concern.
Yes, I agree, the one off the kitchen makes perfect sense as a library. But again, it's not the identification of the room, it's the parking.
Right.
Yeah, so I think as the code reads, as I think most of you are aware, a sleeping room only has to have a closet. And so
Window.
I think in this particular case, we may discuss it later on the other project, but I think this is fairly clearly defined as common area, common use. But again, there's no good answer to your question.
Okay.
Anyway.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, the code defines a bedroom as a room with privacy for sleeping. So it really doesn't include requirements for closets and things of that nature, or proximity to bathrooms. It really talks about privacy for sleeping. So I think in this case, the design has been adjusted to comply with that definition for both the lounge and the library. But of course, the question is one of enforcement and relationship to parking, which is why we made the comment about and trying to ensure that at least the design of both of those rooms was done in such a way that it didn't trigger the definition of a bedroom.
Yeah, I just for my own clarification, and I'm going to ask Guy to.
So I just needed to read what we have here as a definition. It says a bedroom means a sleeping area, a sleeping room of 100 square feet or any room conceivably used for sleeping purposes with some degree of privacy, excluding communal areas.
Very, thank you.
1-3 definition.
But we went through this some years ago with the house on, what's the end of that street, Marlin? Because we're defining a 9-bedroom house. And I think the state ordinance states that anything with a closet, that was a definition we were given back then, is defined as a bedroom. So anyway, let's move on.
I have one question. We've got a 2-car garage that is onto a beachway, and there's adequate space beyond the garage for 2 other cars in that driveway.
Yes.
And then on Osprey, it appears that there's another driveway So-
Parking space, yeah.
where we can park another car. So that would comply with additional parking, which, at this time of year, I think most of us have had people come to our homes and perhaps, especially have a smaller home, they sleep in a room that wasn't quite designed for it. And that's kind of the way I'm thinking about this. It appears to me that it's a legitimate single-family home without aspirations of pushing the envelope.
Agreed.
I think your questions are good.
I think it's, okay. Any other comments? I have a few. Yeah, I think it's a refreshing style. And I know it's called it Dutch West Indies. That's a little bit of a stretch, but my concern is just the verticality of those 2 pediments or gable ends there. And can you go to the comparison with the neighbor's streetscape? Interesting enough, that house on the right on the screen there was one of those early 90s houses that came in from Boca. And, it created a bit of an uproar back then just because of scale and proportion.
Right.
And then look at the house on, I guess, on east side of you. Just seems like an unfair or a little bit of a, imposition, just that vertical, where your gable end Dutch style with a parapet. Is there no way that could come down? I'm just asking.
Well, two things. Main thing is that, the house is raised to comply with the new flood zone. So we are sitting at 9 feet, which is sitting higher than the adjacent houses. In addition to that, as far as the towers go, Randy and I and Ms. Goya have sat down several times, going through proportions of those towers to make them, appealing. And this is definitely, we feel is the best proportion that we have.
Yeah, it's just a comment. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just because you can see it on the top position there where that tower is so narrow.
Mm-hmm.
It does read like a tower rather than an important element of the building, but just a observation. More importantly, I think on the landscaping, you've got a good landscape architect, so I'm hoping.
Would you tell us what page you want that now?
All right, if I can find it, LP1. Right behind you, right?
I'm in the firing squad, right?
I know the feel. Again, we're suffering from a lack of substantial trees on these new properties. And you're using, or Grant's office is using, I think it's blueberry, or what is it? It's really a conifer plant. It's not a tree.
The Japanese on the corner.
Blueberry.
Yeah.
Those provide no shade. They're conical by nature. I don't know if the rest of the commission noted that, but there's really no substantial tree in both exposures. And again, just to mitigate some of that height. It'd be nice to see some street tree of some scale. So I would like to suggest that somebody, is everybody understanding? You see all those tree symbols?
Mm-hmm.
They're 14-foot conical like Christmas trees.
Actually, if we pull up on the rendering, I believe you can see them kind of more on the rendering.
Yeah, take a look.
What's the tree that's the supposed shade tree that's required by code?
Pardon?
I said, what is the tree that
There
is the supposed shade tree that's required by code? I mean, it looks like there's something here.
There's some bottle.
Yeah.
bottle-
I mean, unfortunately, I guess my landscaper's not here. I'm not 100% sure. But the rendering was to give more of a representational idea of, what the landscaping was going to be. The Japanese blueberries that are on the corner, those are, the shape of the tree.
Well, I've yet to see them. Japanese blueberry looks like that rendering, but.
Yeah. I believe that there's also a magnolia tree that's not on the rendering, only because it was kind of like right in the middle of the rendering, which you wouldn't see the architecture, so I kind of left it
Where
out.
is that on the landscaping?
Right on the corner. Which one is that?
It's on the corner of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about street trees. here.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's fine. I don't know. Is there any other concern in mind?
No, with reference to the trees, especially in the back, there's overgrowth on the adjacent house with palms that are against there's a stone wall. And it's very, very lush and very full. There's not much you could put in front of in that space because of the interference with the growth of those palms that are, I can't remember which.
There are leaves, aren't there?
Yes, I think they are. But I was a little bit concerned about that. There were no trees on that property prior, and there still are none, but that has been a grassy lot with no growth beyond grass as long as I can remember.
Right.
But I do agree. I think one of the important things is that we have native trees and we encourage that. And I understand that when they're there, it's important to replace, but I don't know what the guidelines are as far as requiring. If you could refresh me.
It's unfortunate that the landscape architect isn't here because these are, if you're involved with us in the future, landscaping is something that we discuss almost every time, that it puts you in an awkward position. I would like, as a comment, that you pass on to the landscape architect, that we'd like to see a little more de-emphasizing the verticality in the landscaping. I think this, it feels tall, kind of castle-like, and they can do things with landscaping that balances that. And then we're typically used to seeing at least one shade tree in the front. There may be a requirement, isn't it?
Yes.
And I don't see that unless you're counting a magnolia as a shade tree. So if you can pass that along.
Definitely.
And that'd be very helpful. That's my comments.
Mr. Stoff just came in, so we have some backup.
Backup.
Yeah, Randall Stoft, the architect for the project,
Morning, Rand.
and James is the project architect, so I guess
We
you're.
have to sign.
Swear then.
James has done a nice job.
Okay, thanks. I thought so.
Would you kind?
I'm going to start on the project. I need to swear you in if you're going to speak on the project.
Yeah.
Okay, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Randy, we're just summing up. Of course,
Okay,
my two comments, that I think the vertical towers are a little high, but James has defended you pretty well. The main concern, I think, from the commission is that the lack of substantial or, established trees or mature trees on the perimeter, especially in that kind of northeast corner.
I think we're open to modifying that with the landscape architect.
I think you've got Grant, and I think it's.
Okay, yeah.
I think we do have a requirement for, help me here, one street tree, or substantial. So there's only the Japanese blueberries, which are, conical.
Right.
They're not shade trees. So I think that would mitigate the scale of the building,
Okay, you're talking like,
the northeast corner.
okay, yeah, okay, I see.
And any other that you can provide. Okay, any more
Yeah, I think
discussion
the client would do that.
from the commission or the applicant? Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure.
You want to
Public
open it up to the
comment?
public?
Oh, sorry, the public.
I'll make a motion to approve the project subject to the staff comments.
I'll second.
Can I just clarify
Please.
with the tree?
Yes.
That wasn't staff.
I don't know if that was staff, so we need to
Yeah, that was.
in compliance with the tree ordinance. And so that would be.
Commission.
And can we state it that way because it needs to be clear enough that staff can
Yeah.
approve it without the
So
tax.
are you guys looking for more mature trees? How exactly big? Because I think the code only says about 15 feet in the trunk, I think, something like that. Are you guys looking for it to be that big or?
Substantial, but more of a shade character than just a vertical. It's an important corner, and that's one of the.
Amend the motion
Yeah,
as
we're receptive to that.
stated by the chair.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 3. quasi-judicial hearing. Again, I'll ask the commission if they've had any ex parte
No.
communication.
No,
No,
No.
thank you. Okay, staff, could you give us?
Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please
Okay.
stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, when you come up to the microphone, please speak clearly and state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Corey, do you mind?
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Corey O'Gorman, Town Planner. This is the development plan review for 6107 North Ocean. The scope of work includes construction of a new two-story single-family home with 6 bedrooms, 6 baths, 2-car garage, 3-car garage.
Yes.
Sorry, and a swimming pool and spa. The staff recommendations for approval with conditions outlined in the report. And we're happy to answer any questions that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara, any?
Tara Bamber, town engineer. I reviewed the project and it meets the town's drainage code with the conditions outlined in the report.
Thank you. Lastly, Durrani, have you got any comments?
The latest revisions have met the requirements for the Florida Building Code at this stage of presentation.
Thank you. Okay. The applicant now. Please come forward and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Greg Jones. I'm the lead architect and president of Gregory Jones Architecture, and I am the lead architect on the project. 6107 created as you're probably all aware, a distinct challenge in that North Ocean and A1A, which the project has frontage on both. We have a height differential of approximately 10 feet. That's actually a little more than 10 feet. What we did on the project, and the houses adjacent to the south and the north, one had a different approach than us and one had a similar. Seeing as from North Ocean, it would be viewed as a two-story mass. And on the frontage of A1A, it would be viewed as a 3-story. We utilized A1A as the entry point for both vehicular and pedestrian traffic. And what we also tried to do with the design is to break down the 3-story structure with a 1-story structure in front that covers a majority of the mass on the drive at A1A. And the central core, which celebrates the vertical circulation, elevator and stairway, also has horizontal elements to help break down that particular tower or that particular central core, similar to a tree with its branches. Style-wise, which can be somewhat subjective as a definition, reviewing it as a coastal transitional due to its materials, its massing, and the inclusion of elements such as standing seam metal roof, which has a history in the neighborhood. We're also utilizing a driftwood look ceramic plank on various locations on the house to bring the seaside look to the property. You'll see that on the front garage to the right, and also in the central core. It has that similar element. And again, we tried to break it up with different roof lines. Also with the entry sequence into the house is a series of horizontal elements that act as both the entry porch, the roof to the pedestrian access to the elevator and stairway, and also the porch on the, we'll call it the second level. The 3 levels I'd call it are main level, which is primarily vehicular. The reference floor slab is the one in the middle. That's on a first floor if you're looking at it from the from North Ocean. And we have a second living level above that. We treated North Ocean, since it's predominantly a pedestrian access, you get limited traffic and it is one way at that particular location. We decided not to have any vehicular need to be back in the back of our property and add to a somewhat congested area as it is right now. And we also wanted to address so that it was an inviting pedestrian access if neighbors were going to come over from adjacent houses. That would be an inviting way to both address the house and address the street. And we do have views of the ocean at that location. We utilized a 2-tiered approach to the property. The one you're seeing now is the one at the rear. The adjacent street is approximately at 14 NABD 88. And of course, the frontage at A1A is approximately 4 feet NABD. And we think this is an elegant solution to the site problem. You'll see that the property directly to the north of us treated it as a 3-story monolith without any attempt to break it up. You'll see that the property to the south took a similar approach to what we did. And they actually took a 2-story element that was garage with living above it to help break down the massing both in a horizontal perspective and also a vertical perspective. You were calling it a 6-story or a 6-bedroom house. We had revised, a 6-bedroom house. We had revised that to a 5-story, but we do have parking for 6 automobiles on the property. Originally, we were going to try to utilize some of the rear of the property to have parking off street. We got response back from staff that it wasn't allowed, even though almost everyone on that road does that type of parking. But we went with the recommendation of staff, and again provided 6 spots where we believe we only had 5 bedrooms. I heard you speaking earlier about how you're defining a bedroom, and we thought we would put that to rest by having an additional parking space in case you came back and said, well, this could be utilized as the lounge could be utilized as a sleeping area.
Okay. You want to speak to the landscaping, or have you got somebody?
Unfortunately, Stephanie Portis is not here with us
She's
today.
right
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie is here today.
Yeah.
Stephanie, would you like to go on?
Sure, if you could just, maybe complete the presentation.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Portis with PLA Design Studio, 2385 Northwest Executive Drive, Boca Raton.
Excuse me, have you been sworn in?
I have.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna start there with L1, just to familiarize you with what we are keeping and relocating and removing. So along A1A, we've got that large ficus tree that we are removing due to grading, also due to the site utilities required for the house. There's a beautiful large sea grape that's in the southeast corner that we are relocating just directly to the west, to the front, what we're calling the front yard. And we're also relocating one of the coconuts. We've also notated that there's a sea grape that we're removing. It's in pretty bad condition. It's along the southeast corner. Sheet L2, just to kind of give you an overview of what the design intent is. Now, that beautiful sea grape, we're placing it right in that southwest corner of the property, just to kind of anchor it and almost kind of to give back what that volume of the old tree was. It's nowhere near the same size, but we're trying to kind of create a sense of scale there. Along the front, before you enter the gates, you come across 14-foot silver buttonwoods that we're placing. Our site required 6 trees and we're providing 15. And of those, we're providing 14 native trees. So we wanted to, pay close attention to that because we are very close to the ocean, which is a pretty harsh environment. So got to be pretty selective with what the trees and shrubs are so that they survive and they look beautiful year round. So coming into the property, you pass through these 2 pairs on either side of the green buttonwoods, and then you enter the motor court. We are softening that vertical central core with a specimen palm. It's called a hurricane palm or a princess palm that's kind of centered there, but it's light enough to still allow the architecture to read. Along the south property line and the north property line, we are creating a buffer to both neighbors with sea grape hedge. And then we're also providing some tree canopy with 2 additional new coconut palms along those side yards. To the north side, you can see that we've got the drain field and septic, so we have to stay pretty open and clean with the landscape on that side. As you head towards the rear, we kind of balance the property off with 3 coconut palms. One is the relocated that's at the northeast corner, and then 2 additional coconuts. Those arrows indicate that they're kind of those gentle, curving, sweeping coconuts with 18 feet of wood. So it's a very nice scale to kind of balance off the presentation of the house on old A1A. Along the eastern side, where the fence and entry piers and the gates, we're also coming in with some pigeon plum trees, which we're going to keep a little bit more on kind of like the trimmed side instead of allowing them to sprawl, but we're really creating this beautiful cadence along that wall. And then we flank in front with some muley grass. And then there's sod up to the edge of the road where we had to remove the pavement. We're also softening that northeast corner with the silver buttonwood tree. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any questions?
I think it's public now.
Anybody in the public? Hearing none. Turn it back to the commission for any comments, observations.
No, you go ahead.
Ladies first.
It's not really a question per se. Can you just walk me through, first of all, I need a magnifying glass to see everything, so I just need some help. But can you walk me through, I arrive at the property off of A1A, not Old Ocean.
Correct.
So I arrive in the vehicle, I park in the 1-story. I get out. What is happening? How do I enter the house and what are the elevations? Because I'm at 4 and I'm at 10.
Okay. Let me go back to my particular one. Let's come back to one.
And by the way, I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. We're very pleased with it. You enter the property and you have the ability, and there's a client that's already speaking about the project, about purchase. Their goal and our goal were a couple things. The base level is going to have the ability to park covered three cars. We've got a 1-car garage that's associated directly underneath the living floor of the house, that particular location. There is a connected garage building that is actually a 2-car garage because it has a lift. We have 12 feet high, and the potential client wanted to be able to have the one-armed lift with a glassed-in wall, which that is showing solid, but it's a glassed-in wall to the right, so that they can see their sports cars on display. They also want to be able to, if they were going to utilize the front yard, they have a covered patio there to basically do the cigars and look at their cars in storage. You have then 3 ways to get into the house. If you drive into the garage that is associated with the main structure, you have a doorway into a lobby that allows you access to a stairway that goes up to all the way up to the second main level. It also has a glassed-in elevator that will take you up and allow you to have views out to A1A as you pass by the windows. It will also, when you come to your termination at living floor number 1 or living floor number 2, the smaller elevators tend to be a little claustrophobic. I tend to be a lot of claustrophobic. But this opening allows an elegant ride up without the ability of feeling that you're closed in, without feeling closed in. You also have, if you park in the one car that's associated with the main structure or in the driveway, you have a door entry to that same lobby on the ground level that is not particularly, if you go to the architectural floor plan, A1, it'll be a little more legible. And there is both the doorway from the exterior. There is a set of stairs up to the main entry on the second level. And you have that entry directly from the garage. So we have 3 approaches that can take you in depending on how you plan to arrive. Guests would either enter at the ground floor through that pivot door and go into the lobby where it says covered entry. And then you see the staircase, which takes you up to the main level. And there is a covered roof that takes you from the garage structure, the adjacent garage structure, to that covered front entry. So you have the ability to not get wet if you're parked. Like I said, guests would probably decide to take the stair up or the elevator. And of course, if the garage door is open and you're following someone, you could go in that way. You go up to the main living level, and we've had a few conversations back and forth with Guy and Corey, and they probably think I'm a little bit of a hard-edged person. We were discussing the setting of the main floor height. We are at right now 18 inches above Crown Road of North Ocean. I believe if you read in the Unicode of 6732, that states the minimum that is set, and you have the ability to go 12 inches above that. To further enhance the grading and drainage, or not have a grading and drainage problem, we felt that we had the ability to go up to 16.5 for the main living floor as opposed to 15.5. So that's still under discussion. What that would do is allow us to take the garage levels and probably bring them up another 6 inches. And I know that Stephanie was talking about drainage. And even though it meets everything, we think we could prove it if we went that route. Then our vertical height is measured from the reference floor slab. Our highest beam is at 24 feet, and our highest roof element is below 36 feet, which fits within all the criteria.
As measured from the A1A side, from the Old Ocean side.
From the Old Ocean side. Also, if you look at also, if you look at the streetscape elevation, which is on sheet A8, you will see that our structure is significantly lower than the property to the south, and it is lower to the north. It is substantially lower, and it is lower than the newly refurbished construction to the south. So as we address our neighbors, we are lower than both of them in both height and I believe in scale. And I believe we break our scale up a little bit better. The one on the south took our approach or utilized our approach. The one to the north seems more monolithic to me. And I think that we've solved the height and within all the restrictions. I think along with a low roof pitch of 4 and 12, I think that we harken back to some of the elements you find in an old ocean town.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
What is the space underneath? Is it open? Is it air conditioned?
It's open. It's basically, it is a breezeway. Because of the access points, we're utilizing garage, entry point, and vertical circulation. Those components, if they were living space, it would feel like you were in a basement or a dungeon. And we utilized it just for, and as you can see, we have 10 by 10 openings along the two sides. It's basically a taller crawl space.
Rick, you had some comments?
You indicated you had changed your count on bedrooms, so
It's 5.
or added more parking?
There was a staff comment that there was a 6th bedroom. We deleted the elements that they were utilizing to define it as a 6th bedroom, but we decided to go ahead and keep a 6th car just in case it was redefined as a bedroom.
So that is counted in the lounge with the bath adjoining it on the 2nd floor?
Yes, sir.
Is in your count now?
It
Be adequate,
would be
enough
adequate.
parking?
Yes,
Thank you.
correct.
No.
I think it's an interesting way to build a home on a difficult piece of property.
Thank you for saying so. We think we've had, like I said, an elegant solution to the potential problem.
Thank you very much. First of all, is this, do you have an owner for this house yet? You inferred that somebody.
Someone's looking at it. It's being developed as a spec for Bella Homes.
Suspect.
And they're speaking with individuals now from the rendering. Who I think Tech Visual did a wonderful job representing what we're trying to build, and they're getting interest already from them.
Yeah, you had a very nice buttery introduction.
Thank you.
Covered a lot of things, but I have to take some issue just from my professional judgment. This elevated tower, if you could go to it. You had said you had created, oh, you just went by. Oh. Or you can go to the rendering. The rendering's better, actually. In your commentary leading in, you said you had interrupted that element from the vertical presence that it exhibits. I think you've done exactly the opposite. You've created a really emphasized vertical element there that just seems to be screaming, I'm taller than everybody.
Well, what it's doing, and you being an architect, Mark, I like to celebrate circulation, and this vertical circulation is celebrated by that element. What I said earlier was that the vertical component or the horizontal components, you'll see on the right-hand side, we have the balcony on the southern side, which does engage with the tower, or I'll call it the central core. Also, the entry balcony that is a bit blocked by the elevation of the garage also does that. Then we have the 2 horizontal roof planes to the north that also add horizontal elements to start breaking up that.
I understand where you're going. I'm just saying that, you've emphasized through the elevator this kind of, I call it massive element. It's really creating, a visual impact in terms of how high this structure really is. And, compliment to you. I mean, the way you've used the site is fine. I'm just a little bit bothered, and it's just my personal, I think the story and a half single car garage. You have a lift in there apparently.
Correct.
For that. That, in a weird kind of way, helps you from your stepping. You're just
Yeah, I
a
agree.
massive lift.
That's why we did it.
I find it, I hate to say, a little bit institutional just because of that tower. It looks a little bit out of place, a little bit not as residential as it could be, but that's again just my opinion. While we're on this slide, I'd like to strongly recommend that we reduce the driveway from 18 feet to 16 feet. I think it's just an oversized entry. I don't know. I'll ask the rest of the commission here because I think it's a pretty.
I think that would put a strain on being able to get the on-site parking that we're looking to do. Parking side to side. If you were talking about reducing the width.
Well, you can get it.
Or are you talking about the curb cut?
I'm talking about actually the gate.
Okay.
The gate seems just, again.
It is, since it's in the foreground and you're seeing the house in the background, I think you're getting a perspective of it that might be a little more overwhelming than it would be in the real world. And to your earlier questions, certainly I have given critiques, been on the other side of critiques for many years, probably 45, 50 years. And I certainly do appreciate another designer's.
Don't, I'm just making comments for.
No, I'm saying, I'm just having a conversation.
All right, let me finish that. Okay. I'm really, actually, one of the biggest impacts, I think, is losing that ficus tree. That is such a blessing to our streetscape.
We have a solution. If the town will reconsider the height situation, because that was going to cause flooding to go into that garage up front because of the height of the root base, and the roots are all above ground, or a majority of them are. It would drain into the garage.
You have room to give it some kind of moat or something.
Actually, and being able to do that, we wouldn't be able to have height wise for the car for the garage that's underneath the main structure. We actually had to, from this rendering, we had to take out the clear story glass above the garage door and lower that entire ceiling height.
Yeah,
if we were able to go up to 16.5, we'd be able to raise it up and keep that tree.
Well, ficus can be trimmed. I mean, it's a parasite, but it just creates such a impressive feel to that side of the road. I don't know if it's possible. You have area. I mean, the conflict with site drainage is minimal. That can be adjusted. It just seems, obviously, it would help, screen or mask some of what I see as somewhat negative element on this particular elevation, but that's just a wish or a request. If it's at all possible. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about losing that tree, but
of course, I have an opinion on it. It's a neat tree, but every time we've had a tropical storm or hurricane, we have branches come down that block A1A. And I think at that point, it goes from being an interesting and beautiful tree to a nuisance. So it'd be nice to save it, but there's a cost to it.
okay.
You also notice it more because there's nothing else on the property at this time. There's nothing that's been.
No, it's been there forever. So, well, on that subject, then again, this illustrates, I think you're lacking any kind of substantial planting on this elevation. I think you have some silver buttonwood.
We have green buttonwood trees.
Or,
This rendering doesn't really reflect.
no, I mean, even looking at the landscape plan, it's very barren.
Barren?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In terms of scale.
Okay. We've got 14-foot silver or green buttonwoods that are up along the street, and the relocated sea grape that's on that
Where's the
right-hand corner with the R. Do you see the letter R?
Right.
There you go. That's a big sea grape that we're relocating to the front. That's probably about 18 feet, 18 to
Okay.
20. It's
So
big,
that takes
beautiful
up more
tree.
than halfway up the center core.
Okay. Just again, let's talk about that basement area. You said it's a breezeway. Obviously, it's functional from supporting the main floor off of South Ocean, Old Ocean. But it's interesting that you can drive into it from one of your garages. And, it's open on the south side and north side. I've discussed this with Ronnie. I don't think our definition of basement allows this, correct?
I need to do a little bit more research, but I do believe our definition is open on one side.
That's correct. So I think we may have to revisit that as a basement classification.
And what would you look to do to alleviate? You're saying you're calling it a basement as opposed to a breezeway?
I don't see any breezeway classification there.
So it's open and there is water to go from one end to the other.
Breezeway is a two-sided narrow vented space.
It's that, it
not
doesn't
a-
have to be narrow.
60-foot wide.
Well, that's the width of the house.
Correct.
That's the structure that's holding it up.
So I think we'll have to, I'm gonna have staff look at that. That's just a side issue there. Yeah, I think, the house massing is fine except for that one element. That's just my opinion. So if there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mark, might I suggest you make the motion since you
You
had.
don't want me, I don't think he does one. Let's give it a try.
Staff had conditions, yes.
Mhm.
And is the basement breezeway something staff can handle, can make a decision on? I'm not sure I understood.
I think it's yet to be determined, the classification. Is that correct? Your Honor,
Correct, we will make a determination.
and that can be done by staff.
Okay.
I'm just throwing this out. I think relative to the staff questions, that I think it's fine. This is a substantial house. I think it'll improve the town. And I'm open to other ideas, but I don't want to step on too much development. That's the way I am.
Good. That's good.
Make a motion to approve a conditional approval based on staff's comments, taking into consideration also the need to reclassify or classify basement versus breezeway. And I'm sorry, I'm going to stop myself for a second. Did we get comfortable with the fact that we do have more shade trees on A1A now? Because we do need to meet that requirement. Chair Marsh, when she talked about the 14-foot green buttonwoods and the 18-foot sea grape, are we getting?
Yeah, I mean, they're starting off at a reasonable height if they are 14 feet. One thing while you're on landscape, I made a suggestion of reducing the gate opening to 16 feet, which I think.
So I'll start over. Make a motion to approve a conditional approval based on staff's recommendations and comments with the certification, with the identification of whether it's a basement or a breezeway, and with the recommendation to lessen the curb cut and gate to 16 feet, opening back up to the 18 foot inside the gate.
And that's just a recommendation, the last one. The last one is a recommendation.
Correct.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Thank you for taking time to
Thank you.
explain a complex project.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to say more, and staff, that certainly the volume down below, which could be viewed as or defined as a couple different things. It could all be filled in dirt. What we were trying to do is not bring in as much fill. So the alternative is that the pilings would be, dirt would be brought in, and the retaining walls that we see in the back would be brought forward a little bit more. That's what the structure would turn into. We thought this was a little bit a better idea to be able, for instance, yes, someone could go in there and park a lawnmower or motorcycle, something along those lines. We thought that was a little bit better way to figure out to give the owner something potentially additional without utilizing it. We saw no other way to utilize it for living space. Good way.
But it has a floor, right? There is a forward floor.
It can have. It can have.
Are you calling for a floor?
We're calling for a floor. So if it was filled with dirt, we wouldn't have a slab.
Understood.
Very good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have for the development items. We're going to move on to item 4, which is ordinance review. The heading being administrative variance procedure for grandfathered structures. This was brought up in our workshop, which again, I'm glad everybody was able to attend. I think it was very productive. The interaction between the town commission and the PNC commission. What I'll do is ask Corey or staff or whoever to help redefine what we have here.
Mr. Chairman, Corey Warren, town planner. The backup that's in your agenda packet includes a memo for me as well as draft ordinance revisions. The memo was simply to clarify the difference, at least in the code, between variance and special exception. The special exception is a use in the code. So it's not something that is a mechanism that we can utilize to adjust setbacks. So what we're really looking at is some kind of variance. The code already provides for some administrative variance. And there was some language in the administrative variance section of the code that really needed to be clarified. I think there were a few things that were incorrect references in the ordinance. So the strike through and underline ordinance that's also in your backup provides for the administrative variance procedure applying to these grandfathered structures that we talked about. I asked Christie if she has any more detail to go through on the ordinance, if you wouldn't mind doing that, but that's sort of, I think, the big picture.
Sure. So if I can walk you through the ordinance, you might understand what I did was, this came up at the meeting, and it's to allow for some additional really encroachment into the setbacks through an administrative process. And looking more closely at this provision in the code, it needed some cleanup because there was a section that was just sort of inserted in the middle of the general provision dealing with grandfather structures. So what I did was, if you look at the first main page, it's actually the second page of the draft ordinance, the section A that you see that most of the strike through, I took that out and then just reinserted it because it was stuck in the middle of that provision dealing with alteration, extension, enlargement, or expansion that had some subsections to it. So I mainly just took that out. The next real thing I took out was over on the 5th page. There was a maximum allowable time for an amortization schedule. I took that language out too, because it just seemed like it was just sitting in there. It didn't really tie into the section. I also reinserted that back in. So the main revisions that I did was to clarify the administrative process, because there was, I think, a past practice that wasn't necessarily reflected in the current code. So that was to make it clear that when we receive, the town receives one of these administrative variance requests, there's notice to the adjacent property owners, and that there's a process and time frame to consider that administrative variance. We also wanted to make sure it was clear that the administrative official, which could be the town manager or designee, could say, you know what, I'm comfortable making this decision administratively, and then send it to the Board of Adjustment. And that's the main, really the main thing we've added to this code, so that if it was a questionable thing that they didn't feel good about doing administratively, it would go to the Board of Adjustment. This administrative variance is granted based on the provisions in this section. It's not your typical variance where they've got to show a true hardship. The hardship is laid out in this provision talking about, because it's a grandfather lot of record, you have some old setbacks, and now you're wanting to encroach into those setbacks further. So the variance part of it is specifically laid out in this provision. So really the cleanup that we're doing is to clean up some provisions, allow for this to go to the Board of Adjustment and not be done solely administratively. And that's really all that we've done with this, but I think it brings up that whole discussion that we should have, special exception versus variance, and the chair doesn't really like the use of the administrative variance process, but it is the one administrative variance that's existing in the code. We're just doing some cleanup and then to allow it to go to the Board of Adjustment on appeal. So if it were denied, or like I said, the administrative official didn't feel comfortable making a decision on it, that would go to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, I think it's a, I don't know what, definitely a start in the right direction. I think it gives the applicant a little bit more flexibility, which is the intent.
I have a question, and it's how we handle this. There, several pages in, actually, it's the diagram that you relocated in the drawing, and then underneath that drawing at the top of the page, it has an example and describes the example of having 150 square foot encroachment. And this is more on how we handle the review for a project just like this, because 150 foot encroachment doesn't sound like a lot, but it looks like there's 900 to 1,000 foot addition here in this drawing. And I want to make sure that that gets reviewed under our FAR requirements, under our impervious requirements. All of that still gets reviewed even on this administrative review. And it's a question. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not, oh, we're going, because they may be going over 1 foot in encroachment, but putting on 1,500 square foot addition that would create other issues.
And any addition would still have to comply with all relevant sections of the code.
No,
That's my biggest concern. Yeah.
that's an excellent point, because it doesn't vary from the other requirements.
It still gets the full look. Okay.
Good.
So I've got a question. In the example that Rick just pointed out, we're looking at a existing structure that is on a non-conforming piece of property, and such as we might have in the south end of town, correct?
Right.
Does this also apply to substantial renovations that rely on using part of a house that does comply, the same rules, that it becomes an administrative thing rather than having to reapply to planning and zoning? Because there's been a couple of homes that have relied on that technique. They get into it and all of a sudden it's not going to work. The walls can't bear the weight of the plan of the design. But we never see anything about it again. Is that also covered under this? Are you following what I'm saying?
Right, I think what you're saying is, and it may be where the building official has to make that decision whether it's a substantial improvement or not to the property, and that would, if it's a substantial improvement, trigger coming here for development review if they're gonna do an addition. This is specifically dealing with a grandfather lot where they currently
Okay.
encroach the setbacks and want to further encroach the
It's
setbacks.
not universal.
Okay, yeah.
The question becomes when you say it specifically refers to a grandfather lot. So if someone's on a lot where they haven't made an encroachment, but they wish to make an encroachment, this doesn't apply.
I would say they're not grandfathered now because they're conforming right now.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. Good question.
There goes those plans.
Good. That's good. All right, thank you, Seth. That was very good because that one's been gnawing at me for 20 years.
And I don't know, Carla, do we need them to approve the draft so we can take it forward to the town commission?
Yeah.
Do we just make the recommendation?
Yeah, you just make a motion and a second to recommend the ordinance review to go to the town commission.
So I make a motion to recommend that the ordinance go to town commission for review.
Second here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Gosh. January, February, when is this? Next year? All right, what are the dates exactly?
What are the dates that we, 17th is President's
Martin Luther King.
and then the 21st is President's Day of February.
I have a conflict on the 18th, and if no one else has objection, I'd suggest we move the January date to the 24th, 1 week later. Or we can have Brett sit in my seat.
I'm available.
Well, more
To the
important,
24th,
you are?
I am, if it works. I don't want to hold up applicants by us pushing it a week later. But, you know what I'm saying, I don't want to delay something for someone. But I'm available on the 24th.
Yeah, that's the only thing, but right now I don't have any projects that have been confirmed for January. So by you doing that, you give additional time for them to work on their
Yeah,
project.
I think that
Right.
works.
Do
David,
it.
do you?
24?
Yeah, that's fine.
That works for me as well.
And then what do we do about February?
February, you want to do it on the Tuesday? Or do you want to move it a week?
What was the conflict day?
President's Day.
It's a conflict for me.
21st. Yeah.
I'm fine on the Tuesday, the 15th, if everyone else is. What do you prefer, Carla?
We were, it depends, it's up to you guys. We just choose the 15th because it kind of keeps the same package day similarly, but if you guys want to do the 21st or do the 7th,
Oh, right, the 15th would be moving it forward.
yeah, we'll just be moving it forward one day. Well, no, that
No,
would
the
be
15th
one
would
week.
be moving it forward a week, so the 22nd would be moving it back one day.
Mhm.
22nd's fine with me too.
Yeah.
22nd,
22nd is fine with me.
Not good for me,
not good for you.
but I'm.
So I'll double check with Neil. He might be able to push it. Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll definitely change the December meeting at some point because the 22nd is definitely too.
It's up to you guys. You guys can change it now. That way I can do the schedule for the whole year next year. Or we can change it
No,
later.
give us a look ahead if you could.
Yeah.
Give us a look ahead.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to
I'm not doing-
almost plan these things out into 2023. I don't know.
Okay, so for January, it's gonna be the 24th, and then for February, it's the 22nd.
That's correct.
And what is the December 22nd meeting? Did I miss something?
Next year.
Next year, 2022.
Oh, okay, I was thinking
Yeah,
this
that's
year.
a little
Okay.
close.
I know, I was thinking, I didn't see
We
it
have
on any
time to
calendar.
OMG.
Any other comments from the commission before we adjourn?
Just thank everybody for everything they're doing, and I feel like things are better.
Yeah.
All the way around.
I think it's good to have a diverse opinion. You know, it's just,
Agreed.
I'm a little hamstrung here.
Well,
We respect what you bring to the table. Can I say that?
No, we can't talk about it. No, it's a challenge. I mean, sorry.
No, I agree. Those two elements are really, really high on that property, but it's a difficult property, and overall, and I like the pedestrian aspect of Old Ocean. But
And I think that there are some other conflicting property on that road that are even more, they're more dramatic. Very plain.
No, those were illegal. The one-
That's all right. I couldn't believe
I
it.
was going to bring it up because one of the
We're still on record.
violated every
Chair,
ordinance.
we're still on record.
Oh, okay.
And it's ugly.
All right, can we have a,
Can I just make one comment? I've been very happy to be in the learning phase of this committee, but I feel that when I began this, we had virtual opportunities, and I feel that I'm not really living up to my commitment as a member, not really a member of the commission, but as an alternate. And I think I wanted to just give notice that I'm here until May, but I feel I can't in all integrity continue and do something where I can't even virtually be a part of that meeting. And with the pandemic ending, that virtual assurance that I was going to be able to be weighing in is not there. And I just feel I'm not living up to my commitment. So I wanted to just give good notice so that we can move ahead and find someone to replace, or if it's an opportunity to reinstate a virtual, I would be happy to continue, but I just feel that it's a disadvantage to the commission.
So Britt, are you giving notice till May?
Yes, I'll be here through May.
Okay, alrighty, I'll see when your position, because if anything, I'm going to start advertising in January, and if you want to, I can put yours to be advertised as well.
Yes,
I'm in the commission.
unless there can be a virtual.
no, we understand. I think that's reasonable.
It's nice of you to give everybody notice. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for serving.
Yeah, thank you. Please participate as much as you can. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy
All
New
in
Year.
favor? Aye. Merry Christmas, everybody.